and welcome to this fourth video on the creation account according to St. Thomas Aquinas. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dave Palmer. This is day number 4, and I think things are going to start to come together now. I know the first 3 videos were kind of confusing, but it will start to come together now, I promise, as you see the way that Thomas Aquinas and other doctors begin to see how especially the first 6 days of creation were ordered and how there is a pattern that comes about from it. All right, so the snippet from day 4 says, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate day from night." And of course, he's talking about the sun and the moon, which we see in the picture here. So here is the full passage, Genesis 1:14 through 19. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate day from night. Let them mark the seasons, the days, and the years." Okay, easy enough. "And to serve as lights in the dome of the sky to illuminate the earth." And so it happened. God made the 2 great lights, the greater one to govern the day, the sun, and the lesser one to govern the night and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to illuminate the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. Evening came and morning followed, the 4th day. All right, so simple enough. The sun and the moon are now in the sky. Of course, you look back at day number 1 and there was light, and you're thinking, well, how can there be light if there is no sun? We addressed that in a previous video. All right, let's go to some of the objections. Now, I'm not going to give Thomas's answers specifically for these, but you can kind of see a few of the objections that Thomas uses in this passage. Objection 3 said, "Further, the lights are fixed in the firmament as plants are fixed in the earth. For Scripture says, he set them in the firmament. But plants are described as produced when the earth, so they're produced." Okay, remember on day 3, it was not only the earth separating from the waters, but also on day 3, the plants were introduced. So this argument is saying that if the plants were mentioned in day 3, why is the sun and the moon were not mentioned previously when the sky was created, right? The lights, therefore, should have been produced at the same time as the firmament, that is to say, on the 2nd day. Okay, Thomas is going to actually answer that in the body of the question here in just a moment, so hang tight with that one. Objection 4 says, "Plants are an effect of the sun, moon, and other heavenly bodies. Now, cause precedes effect in the order of nature. The lights, therefore, ought not to have been produced on the 4th day, but on the 3rd day," right? Because the plants need the sunlight. And so, that seems to make sense to me, right? But, obviously that's not the order that Scripture lays it out. Objection 5 says, "Astronomers say there are many stars larger than the moon. Therefore, the sun and the moon alone are not correctly described as 2 great lights." Interestingly, he seemed to realize that the sun was big, the moon was smaller, with their limited technology of the 13th century. It's pretty amazing the things that they did know back then. And so obviously the sun and the moon are the 2 that we see most readily from the earth's perspective, and that's why the author of Genesis would have mentioned those 2 in particular. All right, so here's the body, the corpus of the answer to this question about day number 4, and I think you're going to find this really interesting. And like I said at the beginning of the video, it all starts to come together. So let's read this kind of slowly. "In recapitulating the divine works, Scripture says," now we're in he's referencing chapter 2 of Genesis, "So the heavens and the earth were finished and all the furniture of them." Okay, so furniture is what we're talking about now, so to speak. "Therefore indicating that the work was threefold. In the first work, that of creation, the heaven and the earth were produced, but as yet without form." All right, so that's that first verse of Genesis where it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." But then in the second verse, it says, "But they were without form." Okay, it's kind of hard to explain exactly what that means, but that's what he's talking about here. Okay, and in the second, or work of distinction, the heaven and the earth were perfected either by adding substantial form to formless matter, as Augustine holds, or by giving them the order and beauty due to them as other holy writers suppose. Okay, so he's talking here about days 1, 2, and 3. At the beginning, verse 1, it says God created the heavens and the earth, and then before even mentioning day 1. But then day 1 is the light, day 2 is the dome or the sky, and day 3 was the earth, right? So you've got these 3 things that now are distinctions of the overall creation that was mentioned in verses 1 and 2. But then he goes on to say that to these 2 works is added the work of adornment, which is distinct from perfect. For the perfection of the heaven and the earth regards seemingly those things that belong to them intrinsically, but the adornment those that are extrinsic. Just as the perfection of a man lies in his proper parts and forms, and his adornment in clothing or such like. So what we're going to see now, starting with day 4, is the adornment of the sky, the adornment of the sea, the adornment of the land, right? So you have the sky, the land, the sea. Now we're going to start putting things on it, okay? That's extrinsic. It's not intrinsic. The first 3 days are the intrinsic things, the sky, the earth, the sea, right? These are intrinsic, but now we're going to start adding things to it, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. He goes on and says, now just as distinction of certain things is made most evident by their local movement as separating one from another, so the work of adornment is set forth by the production of things having movement in the heavens and upon the earth. But it has been stated above that the 3 things are recorded as created, namely the heaven, the water, and the earth, okay, or sky, water, earth, okay, as I mentioned a moment ago, right? And these 3 received their form from the first 3 works of distinction, okay, first 3 days, so that heaven was formed on the first day. On the second day, the waters were separated, and that's when you had the sky. And on the third day, the earth was divided into sea and dry land. And so it is in the work of adornment. On the first day of this work, which is the 4th of creation, are produced the lights to adorn the heaven by their movements. Okay, so you're going to have the heavens created on day 1. Well, 3 days later, you're going to adorn the heavens. How do you adorn the heavens? Well, you put the sun and the moon there, okay? These 2 great lights that separate night from day. And then you're going to populate the waters. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so the final thing here, he says, on the second day, which is the 5th, birds and fishes are called into being to make beautiful the intermediate element, for they move in air and water, which are here taken as one, while on the third day, which is the 6th, animals are brought forth to move upon the earth and adorn it. Okay, so again, this is what's happening here. He's starting to populate these works of distinction with works of adornment, creatures, plants, of course, were day 3, and then now day 4, you've got the sun and the moon. Tomorrow, when we do a video on day 5, you're going to start seeing the fishes and the birds, and then on day 6, you're going to see the animals and man as well populating the earth, right? Okay, I will go on. It must be noted that Augustine's opinion on the production of lights is not at variance with that of the other holy writers, since he says that they were made actually and not merely virtually. For the firmament has not the power of producing lights as the earth has of producing plants. Wherefore, Scripture does not say, let the firmament produce lights, though it says, let the earth bring forth the green herb. That goes back to that first objection we talked about when he said, well, why on day 3 did the plants come forth from the earth, but then why not on, why would the sun and the moon not come forth on day 1 when the heavens were introduced? And he's saying here, well, the language is different. Okay, the earth brings forth the vegetation, the plants, the trees, right? But the sky doesn't produce the sun and the moon. They're put there. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. All right, that is day number 4. Thank you for watching and participating in this video. Be sure to converse, ask questions, let me know what you think about all this, and we will have day number 5 very soon. God bless you.